It signals the end of the standard working grind and the beginning of some much-anticipated R&R. However, TGIF, or Thank God It's Friday, could soon be replaced with Thank God It's Thursday. With the 4-day work week gaining some momentum, Thursdays could become that eagerly anticipated day that kicks off the weekend. Over the past decade, there's been a push for organizations to reduce the number of working days from 5 to 4. Employees may also have to work more hours per day, but also earn themselves that extra day off per week. Organizations across the world are looking to implement a 4-day work week trial, and if successful, they could make it permanent. And the reason? It's pretty simple. Happier and more productive staff. The 4-day work week has been tested all over the world, and in many cases, it's actually been implemented. Companies in New Zealand, the UK, Germany, and Japan, yes, Japan, have all successfully cut a day from the working week, resulting in a more refreshed and motivated personnel. But before we examine just how a 4-day work week might, work, let's look at how the original working week came about. If you thought you had it tough grinding it out until Friday afternoon, spare a thought for workers in the 19th century. With industrialization in full swing, people throughout Europe and the US were regularly pulling in 14-hour shifts, 6 and sometimes even 7 days a week. However, at the beginning of the 19th century, religious factors began to force employers to reconsider their employees' regimens. In America, Christian groups demanded that they be given Sunday to rest, quoting the Sixth Commandment and the need to abstain from work. Post offices agreed to the terms and were soon followed by a wide number of organizations across the country. This prompted many from the Jewish workforce to point out that their Sabbath was, in fact, on a Saturday, leading many corporations to make both days a holiday. The next step was to reduce the number of working hours. In the 19th century, it was the norm for manufacturing workers to put in upwards of 12 hours a day, often more. During the 1830s, English workers began demanding legislation to reduce weekly working hours. The movement was known as the Short Time Committee, and eventually succeeded in having a working day reduced to 10 hours. America soon followed suit, and organizations started implementing shorter hours. It wasn't until 1922 that the first official trial of a 40-hour workweek was initiated by Henry Ford. Ford had already shown that he was willing to make concessions if it meant a more motivated workforce. In 1914, he cut Sunday from the workweek, citing the benefits for his workers and society as a whole. In 1922, Ford introduced a daily wage for workers, which meant a pay cut for those used to working 60-plus hours a week. However, Ford was adamant that his factories were as productive as ever, and his employees were more rested and they were happier in the workplace. He also claimed that 40-hour weeks allowed people to spend more of their money within the community, making it a win-win for society. Although Ford's bold scheme was initially met with skepticism, he was backed by churches and labor unions. By the 1930s, the 40-hour workweek had been adopted by almost every major corporation in the US and has been the norm, until recently, that is. Over the past decade, many people have been looking at how to best achieve a work-life balance. The idea of a 4-day week was floated with the theory that a better rested employee meant a more energetic and focused employee. This has now been tested by organizations worldwide, with an overwhelmingly positive set of results. In 2018, a New Zealand legal firm introduced the format and then made it permanent. The CEO paid his staff for 5 full days, despite them only working from Monday to Thursday. He was concerned at the pressures on his staff, as they had often struggled to find a happy medium between their home and their professional lives. After the 4-day week trial, he found that his staff was not only happier, but significantly more productive. Companies and organizations across the world are now looking to implement a 4-day week trial, and if successful, they could again make it permanent. In 2019, Microsoft Japan also trialed a 4-day work week, a bold move in a country renowned for its conservative business culture and long working hours. And let me tell you what, Microsoft was blown away by the results. Productivity was up by 40%, and staff morale was significantly higher. The positive result also extended beyond output. One less day in the office saw Microsoft slash 23% from its power costs, and print 60% fewer pages during the experiment. Similarly, in the UK, a recruitment firm saw the significant benefits of offering its staff the option to work 4 days a week. The firm wanted to focus on improving energy levels and happiness while reducing stress. After a 6-month trial, they found that the staff retention was at an all-time high of 95%, and the productivity had increased by 25%. Staff was striding into work on Mondays refreshed, energized, motivated. For many, happily striding into work on a Monday is a seriously foreign concept, but that extra day of rest and recovery seems to be just what the doctor ordered. Not only are employees returning with batteries reset, but they're looking forward to getting stuck into their work with vigor. The 40-hour grind of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, is a concept becoming more and more outmoded. European countries have been operating on work weeks of about 32 to 35 hours for decades now. Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, and Norway are countries with highly competitive economies and populations that enjoy favorable work-life balances. In 2022 February, Belgian workers officially earned the right to request a 4-day workweek if it suited them. In most cases, this meant working for the same pay and the same number of hours, squeezed into 4 days. This concept is gaining serious traction in Europe. Portugal, Germany, the Netherlands, Finland, and Norway have all experimented with the 4-day workweek to some extent. In 2022, 60 companies in Britain adopted the 4-day workweek in a 6-month trial. The results were so positive that 90% of these companies elected to continue with the 4-day system. 18 of these corporations decided to make it permanent. Just as with the New Zealand law firm and Microsoft Japan, the UK companies all reported fewer staff absences, fewer sick days, much higher staff morale. Productivity remained at the same rate as in the 5-day week, and in some cases, productivity was actually reported to be higher. The push for the 4-day workweek is predicted to gain more momentum in the US, where people have already voiced their support for that change. In 2019, a government poll asked 36,000 workers about changing to a 4-day week, and more than 2/3 said they'd be willing to do it, even if it meant working more condensed hours. You know, that instead of working 8, 5 days a week, it's 12, 4 days a week, that kind of thing. And this was before the pandemic. Since then, workers and employers all over the world have come to realize the benefits of restructured working hours and the potential benefits of reducing working times for improved morale and performance. And it's not just about the mental positives. Other advantages of implementing a shorter working week included reduced transportation costs, lower carbon footprints, and reduced maintenance costs for employers, such as energy and utilities. People with the most to gain from a 4-day workweek include parents with young families, as well as workers who can reshuffle their output into a shorter schedule. That's not the case with everybody, of course. Some sectors, like healthcare, public transport, and logistics, typically run on 7-day systems, with staff having to be available for shifts at all times. Then there are those who prefer the familiarity of a 5-day workweek, or those who want the opportunity for overtime. On the whole, though, it seems that the 4-day workweek is going to become increasingly common, especially amongst large organizations that have the personnel numbers to get everything done in 4 days. But let's face it, right? I mean, in terms of productivity, how many hours are wasted by aimless clock gazing on a Friday afternoon, right? With the 4-day workweek, there tends to be a little bit more focus on completing the job at hand within that shorter amount of a time frame. The philosophy seems to be, it's all about working smarter, not working longer. If a 4-day workweek becomes a norm for many companies, then a further issue might be deciding the crucial extra day. The current model is based on a Friday to Sunday weekend. However, another option is for Wednesdays off, then Saturday and Sunday. Wednesdays off would rob people of their hump day, but they're probably going to get over it. Either way, that's basically 2 Fridays a week. Thank God it's Tuesday, or thank God it's Thursday. Oh, the agony of choice.